There's another one you don't want to hear. Frankly, if you want.
1, 2, 3, set, go!
Hello and welcome to episode 98 of the Power Chord Hour podcast. How you doing out there? Thank you so much for checking out yet another episode of the pod. I am your host, Anthony Merchant, here with you, getting closer and closer to that 100th episode mark. It will be our second time, actually, because the radio show, we had our 100th episode back in 2018, and it was fun celebrating the 100th episode, so something that I don't think a whole lot of shows can say they've done twice, but we're going to be celebrating the 100th one very, very soon, and I'm excited for that. Thank you so much for checking this one out. It is the March 2022 rundown for you. I say it constantly in these, but my God, cannot believe we're at the end of another month going into April. It is absolutely insane. But at the same time, I've kept very busy with guests and doing the show and everything. So I guess not a terrible thing that it's flying by. I feel like it's because I'm staying busy lately. And lots of guests on this really this month, but like overall the entire year. I was thinking that too, you know, if you listen to the show, including since starting the podcast, I mean, I try to have a guest almost every week. I like doing these solo ones at the end of the month, but like, you know, besides doing the like monthly rundowns, I mean, ideally I'd like to have a guest almost all the time, but you know, I would say definitely in the beginning there, and I mean, going into like 2021, you know, trying to have guests, but not having guests every week. I feel like, not even feel like, actually, if you go look, we've had a guest every week, or yeah, for every episode this year, minus again the monthly rundowns. I haven't had to go solo yet, which is very, very cool, and I'm okay with that. You know, as fun as they are to do, I very much like to have guests, and yeah, this month was no exception. If you were listening, I mean, we had John Jughead Pearson to kick off the month. And I did that interview back in February. I did the interview like a month before it came out, but a really strong way to start the month. It was, I mean, such an honor to talk to that guy. I mean, my God, what a fucking honor. I mean, no other way to say it. Like, what a fucking honor. Like John Jughead Pearson, and I've gotten really good feedback on it. Even talking to John afterwards, he had some very nice, very, very nice things to say, which were just, I mean, flattering. Like, you know, I'm sure you can tell. I would say you can tell from this, or if you even listen to that episode, I mean, I'm a big fan. So, you know, for him to even, I mean, he could be blowing smoke up my ass. I mean, it could be the worst interview of all time, and just to compliment it even after the fact, just talking to him like, you know, well after we did the interview and everything, you know, definitely means a lot. Extremely nice of him. And, you know, that really is my favorite one so far of the year. You know, again, we've had a lot of guests so far in 2022, and I got to say, he takes the cake. I mean, my favorite. I don't want to, you know, you hate to like measure up guests against each other, and I love everyone who's on the show, but yeah, I would definitely put that one up there, and that kind of goes in that category of like, you know, again, total honors, going in the total honor category. Same with Victor DiLorenzo, who was on, you know, back in January for his second time. I mean, Violent Femmes, Screeching Weasel. I mean, these are like some of my all-time favorite bands, and bands I've been listening to forever. So, you know, very, very cool to have people like that on. And, you know, I'm sure John is somebody who, I mean, now that he's on and we had a good time and I kicked it off with him so well, I mean, I definitely would say he's someone you'll hear on here again. I mean, he does a lot of music and now doing his podcast and stuff. I'm sure there'll be a reason to have him on again. Hopefully for more Mitochondriacs. I've been listening to a lot of Mitochondriacs since having him on, and they are really, really good. He is absolutely right about the whole going back and listening to early Screeching Weasel and like kind of not copying himself. Well, I guess so, yeah, kind of copying himself off that, but like in a good way, like kind of maybe not even copying so much is a continuation of what he's doing on those old records. You know what I mean? That might be a better way to put it. Because like the Mitochondriacs, it doesn't sound like a straight up ripoff of Screeching Weasel, but in that spirit of that kind of like pop punk, it's like perfect. You know what I mean? It's like, it's exactly that. It's not a straight ripoff, but if you're a fan of that like early Screeching Weasel sound, you're going to find it on a Mitochondriacs record. And, you know, I really do. I hope that it sounds overall like it started as kind of a fun project and becoming a little more. Not that it's still not fun, but like, not like just a one-off, doing more of it. And I'm totally about it, because the more I listen to it, I'm like, this is some really good stuff. So yeah, really fun way to kick off the month of March. Even though, again, it's kind of weird, because it's like I did the interview a month ahead of time, and it just, because we're mostly, I mean, we talked about a million different things, but I mean, the thing that we were promoting was Jughead's Basement, the podcast, and since he does those weekly, I kind of held off releasing it because I had other people on who had like either just released an album or about to release an album, so you try to get those out a little closer to, like, if it's like a time sensitive thing. So the the John Jughead one I kind of held on to for like a month, but I was waiting. I was very excited to release it because it was just, I mean, I was already stoked. I could have finished that interview and realized that my dumbass had never hit record, and it still would have been like, I mean, I would have felt like a real fucking idiot. I was gonna say hitting him up and like telling him, hey, sorry about that, but I probably wouldn't even say it. I'd just be like, I'm too embarrassed to even ask about redoing it. I think if that ever happened, thankfully I've never had an interview where I forgot to hit record. It's never happened, thankfully, and knock on wood that I've also never had like a corrupted file or some shit where it gets lost, because I've also heard some nightmares of not such dumbassery of forgetting to hit record, but just you do it, it gets finished, and then the file's corrupted or something's fucked up with it, and that I don't know what's worse. I don't know which one's worse, because the forgetting to hit record, I mean, I would feel such a shame, an undescribable shame would come through me, just flow through my body, from figuring out or realizing that I'd never hit record on an interview. But thankfully it's never happened. Hopefully it never happens, because it only gets sadder in time. Like, maybe I could have did that early on, but like, when we get to like year 12 of the Power Chord Hour and I'm forgetting to hit record doing an interview, I mean, that's that might be time to like hang it up. Maybe hang up these headphones that I'm currently wearing. But thankfully that's never happened. Another great interview I did, or really enjoyed doing too, was Mickey Lee. He was another guest we had on this month, and very, very fun talking to him. Another one where I think it happens a lot, I notice, and I don't think I did for a long time, but now I do, that I very much go on like kicks of like a guest music, like once I have them on. A lot of times I'll be listening to them a lot leading up, because I'm like thinking of questions to ask, and you're just kind of getting myself in that headspace for whoever I'm going to interview. And I mean, same with Mickey Lee. I was listening to his band Mickey Lee's Mutated Music, their debut record, Variants of Vibe, and that's what we talked about and everything. So I mean, I was listening to that a lot beforehand, but it has definitely stayed in my playlist since doing that. I've been listening to that record a lot. Really, really fun rock and roll record. But Mickey was great. Mickey was great to talk to, and I thought he was nice. It was I mentioned this on the podcast because it was a little short. I mean, still, it was like probably, I think, a 35. Really, we talked like 45 minutes, but like the actual interview, cutting it down and everything, I think it aired altogether like 35 minutes or so. But like, I honestly went in with enough questions to probably do like an hour and a half, but he had a music video he had to go shoot, so we kept it fairly short, and it's funny that feels short now, because for years when the Power Chord Hour was just the radio show, we only had an hour, and we also had breaks and stuff. So like, I could do an interview, but like in the middle of it, we would have to take a commercial break. We would, like in the beginning, it wouldn't play right away. The Rock and Roll Rundown would play before the radio show played. So even though we started at 8, the show really started at like 8:08, which really it's that way now too. Which, yeah, I mean, if you're ever listening to the radio show and you tune in one Friday night, you've never listened before, we do, while we do start, we go 8 to midnight. Really, the show starts at like 8:08, 8:09, and sometimes that confuses people. They're like, I don't like this Rock and Roll Rundown, or like something else is on. But I'm like, no, just hold on, like a couple more minutes, and we'll be on. But like all those things would come into play. So like doing an interview, a lot of my old interviews were like 30 minutes long. Like when I had CJ Ramone on, like that was like, I think a 25 minute interview maybe, and like. But once we had to take, breaks for the show, and then I wanted to play a couple CJ Ramone songs for the album we were promoting, like, it makes it so it's a lot shorter. But now because the radio show is 4 hours long, and also the podcast, you just go as long as you want. I mean, I try to do interviews. I like to be like at least, 40, 50 minutes, and really ideally like 90. And it depends who it is, because I mean, some of the more like fast, loose ones, like, I mean, we had Joey Cobra on this month, just last week, and I mean, we talked for 3.5 hours. But I mean, I'm kind of like, hey, if the conversation's that good, keep it going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely not against an interview that goes really, really long. Like, if we have that much stuff to talk about, let's talk about it. But yeah, doing the one with Mickey, I mean, it was great. But yeah, I could have talked to him for like another hour easily, but he had to go do a music video, which, I mean, I can't blame him. I wasn't expecting him to be like, you know what, Anthony, hold on for a second. Let me go cancel all the plans for this music video, and I'll instead talk to you for the evening. I definitely appreciate him just taking the time and talking to me for that time. And it was great. I had a lot of fun. And I was reading I Slept with Joey Ramone, his book. He is, if you don't know, he is Joey Ramone's brother. And he wrote I Slept with Joey Ramone back in, like, I think 2009 it came out. Yeah, it was. Because, and that's what I always think about, is I remember seeing that book the first time in like a Barnes & Noble when I was in high school. It came out when I was like, I would have been like 16 or 17 when that book came out. And at the time, I didn't know who Mickey Lee was. Like, I didn't realize it was his brother. I had no clue, which also makes the, which I feel like that's why the title is the way it is. I mean, I didn't ask him, but I feel like calling your book I Slept with Joey Ramone is very much an attention grabber, including if you don't realize that it's his brother, which, I mean, it's kind of a funny title too, but like it I don't know, I forgot to like ask him that, but then again, I'm sure a million people have, but seeing that for years and years and then going like, oh, I should read that book. And, just, I've done that with a million books. I talk about reading them. Laura Jane Grace, her book, I have had a copy of that now. I've owned a copy for, I mean, I think it came out in 2016, maybe 2015, 2016 it came out. And I got it in, I think, 2018. And have not read it yet, and nothing. I want to read it. I really do. I buy books faster than I read them. I'm a slow reader, and funny enough, this year, not as much. I've talked about it a lot on these episodes, but like reading, I've read just about, I guess I can't say a book every month, but I almost trying to. But I've been reading a lot this year. And reading I Slept with Joey Ramone, I finally started reading it 2 weeks before I talked to Mickey. I was like, well, this seems like a good time to finally start reading it. Wanted to read it for years, and I'm like, now's probably the time when you're about to interview the guy who wrote the book. And I got like halfway through, a little under halfway through when I talked to Mickey. So I wasn't done with it yet, but I did finish it, I think like 2 weeks ago at this point. And a really, really good book. I highly recommend it. I mean, I really enjoyed it even when I was in the middle of it, but finally finishing it all, I really liked it. And I think it was a nice combination of like, if you're a Joey Ramone fan, it tells you the life of Joey Ramone. If you're just a Ramones fan, you hear like, it's not in depth the entire, you know what I mean? It's not, I feel like it focuses more on Joey Ramone's life overall than the Ramones in general. Like, Mickey goes through the entire, like life of the band and everything, but also Mickey was a roadie early on, so he has more, you know what I mean? Like, he has more, like, just things about like the early days when he was more involved than like, say, the 90s. You know what I mean? By like the 90s, he was like less involved in the band, not really, or really doing anything with the band at that point. So like, I think he does go through the whole thing, but there's definitely eras and stuff where he has more to say about the Ramones than other times. Whereas with Joey, it's obviously Joey the whole way through his life. But I also like it because I'm a fan of Mickey's music and everything. And it's in like, there's the right amount of him in the book. Like, I mean, you're going to have to write yourself in. He was Joey Ramone's brother. So he was there for all that stuff. And you're obviously going to be a part of it. And that's why I was telling him, like, I was like, that has to be weird because Netflix is currently adapting the book into a movie, and like, it's about your brother's life, but you're also there for it. So it's like, it's also your life that's being, you're watching it on the big screen. Like, you're watching, like, Pete Davidson right now is apparently supposed to be Joey Ramone. I don't know how I feel about that. But either way, that's neither here or nor there. But like just watching, I mean, a huge actor, a huge celebrity like Pete Davidson up there playing your brother, reliving a moment of your life. You know what I mean? Like that's something like a moment that was in your life that you were a part of. Like you lived that, and now you're watching it be recreated on the screen. And like, you know what I mean? It has to be surreal. But yeah, and he did say it was a wild thought and like crazy to think about. But like it has to be, like in something like that, it's like it's not like made up stories and stuff. It's not fiction. It's your life. It's very much nonfiction. It's as crazy as some of the stuff may seem, it's like you're watching. You're already writing about it, and that's one thing. But again, like the visual element and everything just has to be absolutely nuts. But I thought there was a nice mix of that because there was enough in there about Mickey's like bands and his life and music career, but not so much that it ever becomes a book on Mickey Lee's life. Like by no means does it ever become that. You know what I mean? It never really loses sight of being a family memoir and being about, Joey and the Ramones and all that. I do think something that's neat, and again, like with him, I think having more to say about certain eras of the band, even pre-Ramones, like I never realized how much all the Ramones kind of knew each other before the band, and even Mickey playing with those guys before the Ramones, playing with most of those guys before even Joey played with, I believe, yeah, because Mickey was in a band with, I believe, Tommy and Johnny beforehand, before Joey was. I don't think he played with Dee Dee in a band. I could be blanking on that, but I believe it was John and Tommy that he was playing with even before Joey was. So like he has like some great stories even pre-Ramones, and overall I think really really excellent book. It's the second one I read this year, like Ramones related. I read Richie Ramone's book. I've talked about a million times on here, and like both are really really good. I think. I don't know, like people were asking me not so much to like compare them, but if they were worth reading, and I said absolutely. I mean, I would say read both of them. I don't even know that I could really say one is better than the other. I don't know that it would even be fair to say, because I think both talk about the Ramones, but then also about the lives of the people outside of it. You know what I mean? So like with Richie, he talks a lot about the Ramones, but he's also talking about his life before and after the Ramones. And, same with I Slept with Joey Ramone. Mickey's talking about Joey's life before and after, which I think is also the nice part of it. You know what I mean? Because when you start reading all these books, that's the other thing I would also say as far as comparing them, read both of them, because you start seeing things like overlap and things where you're like, you get a good glimpse into the Ramones because you go, in Richie's book, he was talking about how close Richie was, Richie was talking about how close he was with like Joey and hanging out with Joey and Mickey. And then in I Slept with Joey Ramone, Mickey Lee's talking about how close Richie and Joey were and him as well, going and hanging out with all of them and stuff. And, so you start reading them and you get that, I feel like you get an even better picture of the Ramones, because once you read two or three, also Johnny Ramone has Commando out. Monty has a book out. I mean, Dee Dee Ramone wrote a few books. CJ Ramone's currently writing a book. Like, I want to read all of them, because you start seeing, like you really do. You go like, okay, well, I mean, if they all say this or that, like Johnny Ramone, probably kind of difficult to work with, because you read a few of these books and realize that everyone kind of has the same, like, yeah, he wasn't super nice to me or this, that, and it's like, well, that's probably true. I mean, after you read it enough times, and enough people say it, it's like, yeah, he might have been a difficult guy to work with. And so, I mean, I enjoy it for that, and then I also enjoy hearing the stuff outside of there. Another one, too, I have not read Marky Ramone's book, but I forgot Marky Ramone also has a book, and I would really like to read his, because, I mean, a double threat in punk rock, considering he was, he was in Richard Hell and the Voidoids before he was even, Marky Ramone. I mean, talk about... You're in like, I mean, you're talking about the origins of punk rock and stuff. I mean, he was there for it. And I would very much like to read the stories, including like, I mean, the Ramones, but really with Marky, I might even be more stoked to read like stories on Richard Hell and, being in the Voidoids and all that, because that's just, I mean, that's amazing. That is a legend right there. But yeah, definitely recommend reading I Slept with Joey Ramone. And really funny, if you listen to last month's rundown, probably I say that, but I'm assuming that's what I talked about then. I think I started reading, Yeah, I did, because I'd already talked to Mickey at that point, I believe. They all get mixed up. Because I don't do the interviews the same day these get released, so I might talk to someone a week before it gets released. So like I'm trying to think of, like even though the Mickey Lee interview didn't come out, same with the Jughead one, even though they didn't come out until this month, I did them in February. But with Mickey, I took a break. I finished Richie Ramone's book. I started reading George Clinton's book, and then I took a break to start reading Mickey's book because he was about to be on the show. And then I just finished I Slept with Joey Ramone like a week or two ago, and I was about to start reading George Clinton's book again. This is the second time I go to return to it, and then I find out that next month here, in just a few weeks, I'm really excited, I'm going to be talking to John Beauvoir, who, the bassist of the Plasmatics. He produced the Ramones. He worked with Kiss, Little Steven. A million different bands, million different artists, and just an absolute legend. And he has a brand new book coming out. So I have not started reading it yet. I'm waiting for it to get here in the mail. But again, I have to take a break from George Clinton's book. Second time I have to pause to read another book, which also pertaining to the Ramones. Another book. It'll be my third book I'll be reading this year, and it's about John's life overall. But I'm sure there's stories of the Ramones in there. He worked with them on Brain Drain and Animal Boy, which funny enough, I got to last year when I was talking to Richie Ramone for the 35th anniversary of Animal Boy. I got to we didn't talk a whole lot about working with John, but we did get to talk a little bit about it. So now I get to talk to John about working with the Ramones, which I'm very excited to hear about, because also you probably get to, and this wasn't even my thought, actually. I was talking to a friend on Facebook. I was like, hey, I'm interviewing him if anyone has any questions. And one of the things he brought up, and I hadn't thought about it, is, where the band's heads were, Animal Boy, and then a few years later on Brain Drain. Richie was out of the band by the time John came back for Brain Drain. That was Dee Dee's last record with the band. Dee Dee also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he played a whole lot on the record. And, John probably saw two different versions of Dee Dee Ramone, and, things like that and stuff. I would be very interested in asking, and I do plan on asking, but I'm really excited to start reading that, which if you've not, it just came out like a week ago, so it's very new. But go check out John Beauvoir's new book, Bet My Soul on Rock and Roll, The Diary of a Black Punk Icon. I cannot wait to talk to him. I was thinking of, for quite a while, I was like, he would be really fun to talk to, even before the book, because it's just he's done so much, and he's just one of those people where it's not just one thing. He's done a million different things, so there's so much to talk to him about. But then seeing that the book was coming out, it was I really have to now I really got to reach out and see if we can do something. And I got it booked for 2 weeks from now, I think it is, which depending when you're listening to this, if you have any questions for him, feel free to email them to me, powerchordhour@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on one of our social media sites. Just hit me up on social media, shoot me a DM or something. But if you got any questions for him, let me know. He is going to be very easy to talk to, though. Someone who's been doing it now for 40 plus years. It's gonna see that's the thing. I hope we get to do an in-depth one. I'm really hoping that we can do an hour or 90 minutes or something, because I feel like there's so much to talk about. So we'll see where that goes, but I'm really excited for that. There's so many places we can take the conversation, but I'm excited to start reading the book, and just excited to talk to him in general. And I just watched the other day, he did a live stream with, I'm blanking on the name, but he had someone help him, or co-author or whatever for his book, and they were doing a virtual Q&A the other day, and it was really good. It was really fun hearing him tell stories and talk about the book and answer people's questions and stuff. It was really neat. Got me excited more to talk to him. So that'll be coming up sometime next month. You'll hear me talking to him. But really, really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to reading that book as well. And sorry, George Clinton. Again, I got to get back to his book, because I only got 50 pages in before I had to start reading I Slept with Joey Ramone. But I gotta get back to reading George Clinton's book someday. I will eventually. I'll eventually get to it. Maybe George Clinton will come on this show in like a month, and that will push my ass to like read it faster. Which, I mean, if George Clinton agreed to come on, I'd read it. I would read it a lot faster. That would be a dream interview. I mean, he's someone who I don't even know. You talk about someone where like, and I've said it, where it's like, people who have the longer the career and the more things you've done, the easier to do an interview and like talk about things. But George Clinton, I don't even know where I'd start. You know what I mean? Like he's done so much, and there's just decades and decades to talk about. I don't even know where I'd begin that. But that is definitely one I would love. I would love that interview. That would be a pretty fun one. A boy can dream, but maybe that'll happen one day, because that dude is an absolute legend. And his book is really, again, I've only made it like 50 pages in, so I'm not gonna like lie to you and say I've like read it cover to cover. But as far in as I've gotten, it is also a really good book. But yeah, it is on the back burner once again. I find that funny because, again, if you go listen to the February rundown episode, I'm talking about how I'm about to start reading it again after taking a break for I Slept with Joey Ramone. But yeah, Jughead on the show this month, Mickey Lee on the show, and last week our other guest of March was Joey Cobra, us talking so long, and thanks for all the shoes, which was so much fun. That if you got a chance, I mean, the podcast was great, but I really liked how it came out for the radio show, because after we talked about every track, we played the song, and I liked how like the conversation, like where it would end and where we would start playing the song. I thought it worked really, really well for a 3.5 hour discussion of a 30-minute album. But that was a lot of fun. That's always a good time to have Joey in. Like he's always great. It's always a treat to even have someone in town to come in to the WRFA studios. You know what I mean? To be able to do in studio, because we very much, it's all phoners. I mean, we gotta do phone interviews on this show just from where I live and everything. We don't, obviously the pandemic as well, but even pre-pandemic, just people don't really come here to play, and it's just not a city where a lot of punk bands and stuff are coming. So we do phone interviews, which I'm cool with. I enjoy doing them, but I mean, it is 100%. You get a different vibe, and it's just a whole different thing when you can do it in studio. And I'd like to do it with more people, but Joey is always a treat. And I mean, he has to be like, I think he's been on the most. The only person I can think of who might either have him tied or have him beat by a couple would be Kyle. Would be my boy Kyle Steven, who we gotta have him on again. It's been, again, like, time moves so fast. I go, he was just on, but then it's like December was not that short of a while ago. That was there's a few months in between now. You know what I mean? It's been a while. I guess December wasn't like a month ago, but that was the last time we had him on talking about plus 44 is when your heart stops beating. But we gotta have him on again sometime. It has been too long. You can only go like a month or two without my boy Kyle coming on. But yeah, Joe's always so much fun. He did an amazing, it was like a week ago, I think he put it up. If you go look on like Facebook, or actually on his website, if you go look, Joe Grice Art, he's also, we've talked about it, but like he's also an artist. And he did this amazing oil painting of Buffalo at Grand Tetons. Really, really cool. Like looks really, really sick. I really like it. But he does some really good art, which and I love his music too. Music's great, and his art is really good too. He's a double threat when it comes to that. But yeah, always fun having him in the WRFA studios, and I'm pretty stoked. I got a position at WRFA as the arts and entertainment reporter. So now, on top of doing the Power Chord Hour, I do the local rush hour and Arts on Fire. So I'm doing, it's crazy. Like I'm running around now, I was talking about earlier in this episode about having guests on and doing it more frequently and stuff. Well, now I do 3 shows where I do interviews, and I'm running around like with my head cut off, just trying to like, just like remember what day I have who on for what show. And, when it rains, it pours, which isn't a bad thing. It's a really, really fun job, and I love doing it. But yeah, like going from just doing this show where it's like, I have an interview like, I mean, sometimes they will double where like I'll get, there are weekends where I'll have, like when I did, when I interviewed John Jughead, the next day I had Mikey Ergon. Like, I will have things like that. Or earlier in the year, I think I think it was a Saturday and a Sunday. One day I interviewed 1913 with Victor DiLorenzo and Janet Schiff. And then I interviewed Justin Vaughn the same day. And then the next day I interviewed Chelsea from Stress Dolls. All within, like I think 12 hours or something like that, or at least a 24-hour window. And, so that happens like every now and then. But now, I mean, it's really, I got to start like keeping track. I even bought me a daily planner to like write the days and for the people. But I'm really excited for it. For Arts on Fire and Local Rush Hour, it more pertains with like local stuff here in Chautauqua County. So I'm talking to like local, but it's also the other thing I like about it is it's not just musicians. Like music is just one part of that. Like Local Rush Hour, I do more play local music, but there will be a guest here and there and stuff on that, including if I don't have enough time on Arts on Fire. If we're talking music and stuff, I'll move that over to Local Rush Hour. But it's fun because like outside of that, I'm talking to like, artists and writers and like, people doing different things. Like I absolutely love talking about music and, doing the Power Chord Hour. I'm talking my favorite musicians and all that. But I do enjoy the challenge of finding people in different fields. It's not just finding a musician from an album that I like, just like a band that I like who just released a new album or something. It's finding things pertaining to Chautauqua County and also mixing it up and talking to different people. Like last week, I had a really fun time talking to this author who just put out a really cool book, which actually, if you're in the, Western New York area, not even just Jamestown, he did a book. It's called Secret Places of Western New York. And it's all these like hiking areas around us. And it was like, it's right up my alley. Like it's something like I would read the book whether or not I had him on the show. It's something I would enjoy whether or not. But, I'm not going to have him on the Power Chord Hour. You're not going to hear him on here, for obvious reasons. We just don't, we're not going to. Every now and then I'll talk about a little bit about like hiking on here and stuff, but this is not a show about hiking. So, I don't do those kinds of interviews. So, to get to do an interview with someone and talk about hiking and like, where our love for it came from and, being able, the history, like, history that you can see in the forest and all that kind of stuff and old growth forest and like all those things that I love, but I really don't have a forum for, like with the Power Chord Hour, really fun to do that. And also to get out of my comfort zone of even music, interviewing musicians in genres that I may not normally listen to or that I might not even be aware of. It could be music that I enjoy, but that I don't know a lot about. And, it's really cool for that. So if you ever want to listen to that, if you ever want to listen to me on WRFA, besides the Power Chord Hour, 8 to midnight every Friday night, I'm on the Local Rush Hour 4 to 5 Eastern. If you, because we're in New York in case you're in a different time zone, but 4 to 5 Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then Fridays, Arts on Fire 5 to 6, and then the Power Chord Hour 8 to midnight. So I'm all over Friday night. If you want to hear me on a Friday, I am on air from 4 to 5, 5 to 6. So I'm on 4 to 6. I'm gone from 6 to 7 and then back on 8 to midnight. So that's 6 hours of me if you want it every Friday. And then you also got me for that hour every Monday and Wednesday on top of PSAs and everything that you'll hear on the station that I did. So really, really fun. The job is great. Really, really cool. Great station. I mean, I've talked about WRFA a ton on here, giving me my first shot back in high school with a paid internship, and just me learning the ropes of radio, and just being the coolest place to do the Power Chord Hour. I mean, I was even thinking about it the other day, because before doing the podcast, and I've kind of stopped thinking about it now, but for a long time, I was thinking about like hitting up other radio stations like throughout the country, like public stations, community stations, like a station that would play the Power Chord Hour. You're not going to get us on like a commercial station. As much as I would love that, a commercial station's probably not going to pick us up. It's just, it's not commercially, it's it's not mainstream enough, I guess. But so like looking up places who might air it, but like the more I think about it, I go, WRFA has always been so cool and has never once said you can't have this guest on, you got to play this kind of music, or you got to play this band more, you got to do this or that. And I just get to a point where I go, yeah, I could have seen if I could have gotten the show on like more stations around the country. But then I'm like, you kind of lose some of that freedom because, stations are formatted differently. You gotta do it a certain way. We want you to play this. We want you to play X amount of new music, play something from a band off this label, this or that, where I'm just like, WRFA's never that. I now have like 4 hours a week, just 8 to midnight on Friday nights. And it's just my time to play music, talk about what I want, talk to who I want. There's never a thing of, well, who do you have on this week? Like none of that. So I'm just like, I feel like we have a good setup doing the radio show every week on that and then doing the podcast. I'm like, it would kind of be neat getting on other stations, but I'm like, I like the freedom too much. I don't want to have to like compromise it at all, where I'm just like, I'm better off on there. I get left alone. They're like, you've been doing it for 6 years now. You know what you're doing. Like, we just leave you alone. You do your thing. But really, really honored to be hired there as an arts and entertainment reporter, and very cool. So I've definitely been keeping busy outside of just doing this here radio show and podcast, just doing other radio shows and all the behind the scenes stuff. But that's always fun. I love every aspect of radio. Like I know some people who only want to do on air. They only want to be the talent. They only want to they want to be the person you hear. And don't get me wrong, I love doing that. Obviously, I wouldn't do a podcast and a radio show if I didn't. But like, I love even the behind the scenes shit. I like playing board op. I like editing audio. Like I like producing things. And you may not be able to tell it from this show because I don't do a whole lot of production or editing because I'm not gonna sit here and listen to a 3. And it's like the NoFX thing. Like, number one, I also like it because I think even when we go off on tangents, if you're a fan of the music that we talk about, you probably, even those tangents are still like pertinent to the show. You know what I mean? Even if we start talking about Less Than Jake for 5 minutes, more than likely, if you're listening to an episode about NoFX, you probably like Less Than Jake too. So I'm always like, why cut that out? Why do that? And then number two, I'm not going to listen to 3.5 hours and like cut it down. Like, that's too much work. I'm not going to sit here and listen to that. Only if I have to. I was pissed at my buddy Zach, our world famous, still one of the most downloaded podcasts we've ever done. Top 5 Blink-182 songs with Zach and Kyle, and Zach a couple times. Nothing even bad, like nothing even too bad. But he was just doing some shit talking where I had to like go through and remember a couple places where I had to like cut some shit out, and like just more frantic. I'm like, yeah, I don't think he wants the shit talk. You know what I mean? Like, I like doing some shit talking. He didn't really want to do some shit talking. So I'm like, all right, like I'll take it out. But then I had to listen. Like, that episode's really fucking long. That one I think goes into like the 3-hour territory. But like in that one, I remember having to go through and listen to it. And like, just because I couldn't remember where it wasn't even a lot to cut out, but it was like, I can't remember. So I just have to listen to like the whole thing basically. And it's like, it is, I hate having to sit there and listen. Or actually, more recently was actually the one with Jughead this month. And not because I even had to edit anything out. It was just, I did have to produce that one because of the quality. We did it over Skype, and there was some lagging. And like, it was also a couple times like he'd say something and it would just repeat. Like, just start doing things like that. So I had to go through and listen to that and just kind of clean it up. But that one I didn't mind so much though, because I was like, every time I'm like, I don't feel like editing, and I'm like, oh no, I get to listen to me talk to Jughead. Like, this is kind of cool. But anyway, I'm off on another tangent. But like, I do enjoy doing like the production side and the behind the scenes of like radio and just audio in general. I think on this show though too, and I'll get off the subject, I'm sure it's not that interesting, but also I think you can overproduce like a podcast and stuff. I'm like, you don't need, I think segments and stuff are great for a radio show. And if you're trying to do it, like, I have an hour, my radio show is an hour, and it's like, you have to fit it in this time. and there might be breaks, and you might have to do this, and there might be weather, so you'll have to stop, and like, just different things like that. That's a place for segments. Like that makes more sense. With more segments, you're going to produce things more, like all that. With a podcast, I feel like it should be more just free flowing, like a little intro and like get into it. You don't need to set it up like a radio show, because it's not a radio show. Radio is great, podcasts are great, but in my opinion, they're different. There's many similarities, don't get me wrong, but they aren't the same thing at the end of the day. There is a difference, and I think one of the biggest differences is structure, or lack thereof, with podcasts. In a good way, there should be less structure. I structure the radio show much more because it's a radio show. The podcast, I do a lot less of that. There's a lot less production. This is, including an episode like this is me talking after the intro, playing you a couple songs, unless you're listening on YouTube, and those copyright claims, you ain't listening to no music. But, that's about it. There's not a lot else to it. But some podcasts, I'm just like, they produce it way too much and try to clean it up too much, where it doesn't even sound like a natural conversation anymore. So, like, again, same with that. It's like, okay, me and Joey talk for 3.5 hours, but I'm like, if I start really cutting that and whittling it down, you're going to get to a point where it sounds weird. It's not going to sound natural. Like, the natural transitions you get are gone because you started removing them, So, and thankfully, though, too, now doing the radio show 4 hours, like I can even though I do produce that a little more, like having that time, I don't have to cut things like that. Like we did that whole interview got aired on the radio. Like I didn't really have to cut anything out. We still fit the music in and got it all in there, which was nice. Where, as before too, when we were only doing like an hour, like that wouldn't even been on the radio show. That would have just been a podcast episode, and I would have just probably played like a NoFX song that week and said, hey, go check out the podcast this week with Joey Cobra. But stoked that we get to do that on there now too, and very stoked as well that you can hear me on multiple shows on WRFA. So again, if you want to listen to that, 107.9 WRFA in Jamestown, New York, and you can stream the station anywhere online at WRFALP.com. And we also have an iPhone app. It is not available for Android, but if you go to App Store on your iPhone and just look up WRFA, I would assume it would come up just right there. So go check that out. We are, this week, since we start every month with a themed playlist, I decided this Friday night's show is all music from previous Power Chord Hour guests. 4 hours of music only from people who have been on the show. And I ripped myself off a little, admittingly, because there is if you've ever checked it out, I'm sure I've mentioned on here, like a month or so ago, I started this big ol' Spotify playlist on our Spotify page of this. It's just a playlist, and that thing's like up to 11 or 12 hours. I just keep adding to it. But that is all music from previous Power Chord Hour guests, like whether someone was on the show who played bass on it, sang on it, like also producers and engineers, like I've had a few on. So it's like also, like there's a few Stroke songs on there because we had Gordon Raphael who, produced the Strokes. So like, there's like that too. So it's like if someone had an involvement with it, who's been on the Power Chord Hour, I have that big old playlist you can go check out. I mean, it's like 12 hours long, and I just keep adding to it. So keep getting bigger and bigger. But this week on the show, it is all previous Power Chord Hour guests. And it was really fun. I had the playlist already. It was really fun to do. But I mean, even in 4 hours, I don't think I even hit everyone I've had on the show. I'm sure there's a few who have like fallen through the cracks who I forgot. But I tried to fit as much as I could in. Also with the idea though that yes, I have 4 hours, but I'm probably gonna. I mean, as you can tell from listening to this, I get sidetracked easy. And like, talking about like the songs that I'm playing and stuff on the radio show, I'll probably go on tangents about the guests. You know what I mean? Actually, that's the other thing. If you want to hear a good like behind the scenes episode, listen to the radio show this Friday night, because after I play the songs, I'm sure I'll start talking about like the people as guests and who I had on and, like all that stuff. I'm sure I'll get into all of that. So, I mean, I kind of also have that in mind with the playlist. Like, I'm sure I won't be able to shut up at times. So, I'm going to try to get through every song on my playlist. But who knows? Who knows if I'll actually get to it or not yet. But, yeah, I'm excited for that. So check that out Friday night on the radio show. That is, it is going to be me talking for 4 hours and playing music all from past Power Chord Hour guests. And speaking of past Power Chord Hour guests, that goes right in to new releases of March 2022. Let's get into them. And from former guests of the show, Audio Karate, Jason Camacho, one of my favorite previous guests. We've had him on twice. Hopefully have him on again sometime soon, because now they got a brand new album out, Otra. Got to go check that out. It's a collection of songs throughout the years, and some unreleased, some really rare, but like really, really good. I'd not heard, besides like 2 songs I had heard, and we actually played one of them on the show last time Jason was on here. But like the other, like most of it, it's like 8 or 9 songs. So I mean, there's like another 7 on there I'd never heard before. And I mean, my God, like there's a couple of those are like some of my favorite. The second song on it, Segway, like is already one of my favorite Audio Karate songs, like hands down. Really, really fucking good. So go check that out. Another former guest of the show, The Stereo, they just put out their second single, 13, the title track off their upcoming record, 13. I talked all about that Kickstarter that they're doing right now on the February rundown. They've and the new podcast too, Kings of No Hope, that they're doing. Really good stuff going on in the Stereo camp. I really like this one. The other song, Kings of No Hope, was really good as well. I mean, it's 2 for 2 so far, and I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the rest of this record. It's gonna be good, and we'll definitely have Jamie and Rory on once that bad boy gets released. Another great one out, Guided by Voices, just put out Crystal Nuns Cathedral. We got a new one from Bruce Lee Band, another single. They just put one out last month too. But they got a new one out, Did You Find the Money Farm, with a great music video out too. Definitely, I mean, it's Mike Park. It's always good. Go check out that music video and song. Really good stuff. Pup put out a new single, Matilda, that is off their album The Unraveling of Pup the Band, which is out this Friday, April 1st. So if you like that single, you got a new Pup record probably out by the time you hear this, or almost out, I should say. Lower Expectations, which we'll play something from here in a minute. They are a band from here in Western New York, and they got a new one out called Talking to Myself. We'll play something off of that in a second. We got a new single from One Armed Joey, Numbstruck. New one from Charger, which is Matt Freeman, the legend that he is from Rancid and Operation Ivy. That is his band, and they're back with a new album called War Horse. There's a new single, and I really, really like this, from a new band called 3LH. The single is called Shadow, and it's off their upcoming record. I do not know when the record's coming out, but I really, really like this song. And definitely go check it out and get ready for what is going to be a really damn good album. And another good one out this month, Rotten Mind with Unflavored. We got Clueless with Groundhog Day. Our buddies Golden Richards are back with a new single called Shake Your Hair. We'll play that for you here in a second. John Doe of legendary band X, he is back with a new single called Never Coming Back off his upcoming solo album, Fables in a Foreign Land. Prince Daddy and the Hyena are back with a new single, El Dorado, and as well as another one, A Random Exercise in Impermanence, and both of those come off their new record, which is going to be coming out April 15th. We got another one from Craig Finn, first one in a while from his solo career, and it is Messing with the Settings. It is a single off his upcoming record, A Legacy of Rentals. Finally, Hot Water Music are back with a new record called Feel the Void, and we're going to play something off that right now. Here is their song, Killing Time, right here on your March 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. Right here on your March 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. That's some new music from Golden Richards. That was their brand new single, Shake Your Hair. Before that was a new one from Lower Expectations. That is La Brea, the opening song off their brand new record, Talking to Myself. And you go find that band on Facebook and Instagram, both at Lower Expectations Band. And opening up that block of music was a new one from Hot Water Music with their song Killing Time off their brand new record, Feel the Void. And that's their first record with the Flatliners' Chris Cresswell as a member of Hot Water Music. And I think he fits perfectly in that. I mean, I feel like that's the overall consensus. I don't think I've really seen anyone be bummed that Chris is in the band. And I think he works really, really well with, just with that band. Obviously, they were an influence on Chris and the Flatliners. And I feel like he fits in there perfectly. So very cool to see, and the new record is very good. And we got a few little pieces of music news for you, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Very, very cool one in March. The pop punk legends that we all know and love as the band Midtown have announced a string of reunion shows for later this year. They are. It has been titled Resurrection Tour 2022. I'm all about it. The band is venturing out to reunite for My Chemical Romance. Will be opening for My Chemical Romance on select shows in New Jersey, Florida, Texas, and California. And they'll also be headlining 4 shows in New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. So you got a few chances to see them. And initially they were doing two headlining shows, and those things sold out almost immediately. So they released 2 more dates, and I'm sure those are going to sell out. There's no doubt in my mind those are going to sell out too. All the headlining dates that Midtown plays, those are going to sell out. I mean, the My Chemical Romance shows, those are probably going to sell out as well. So like any show that Midtown's playing this year is probably going to sell out. And a very neat one that they did just announce, they've announced, again, it's kind of been rolled out. So a few more dates have been announced, but another one that they just announced, which is very cool, is that they'll also be playing this year's Furnace Fest in Birmingham, Alabama, with tons and tons of bands like Hidden in Plain View. Hidden in Plain View are getting back together to play that. Newfound Glory's playing, Descendants, Lagwagon, Thrice, Strike Anywhere, and many, many more. It's a 3-day festival. And I'm stoked, obviously. I'm stoked. We've had Heath Saraceno and Rob Hitt on the show. Crazy to think 2 years ago now for Save the World, Lose the Girl. That's their 20th anniversary. And I'm a huge Midtown fan. I don't know, like even when I talked to them 2 years ago, like I don't think I asked them about like ever reuniting. I asked them about the reunion, but I don't think we really, because I at least thought this. Now again, it's been 2 years. Maybe I'm forgetting it, and I did ask them about like, will you ever reunite again? But I think I purposely didn't, just because I didn't know if they would. And like also like like everyone asks them that. That's the question that everyone asks them. Like, are you going to reunite? They get asked that constantly. And I'm really, really excited to see. I am sad. I was going to try to grab a ticket to one of those headlining shows. And like I said, that sold out right away. I might try to grab one of the other ones that just got announced. I mean, it's still going to be like an 8-hour drive or whatever. That's what I drove last time to see him in New Jersey back in 2014. But either way, I'm excited to see them play more. And I don't know. A few additional dates have been announced and stuff. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they put more out there. I mean, I think the demand is overwhelming. I mean, I think they know that people care. I mean, I think they also probably saw that in 2014 when they reunited for those shows. Like, I mean, I think they do know that people still care about Midtown, but I think they're really seeing now that I think people really, really care about that band. I think they're probably one of those bands that got bigger after they disappeared, you know what I mean? Or after they broke up. Like, I think, obviously Gabe Saporta with Cobra Starship, that probably didn't hurt. And, all those things. But even just with time, I think those records aged really well. I think, they left us with just 3 like pop punk masterpieces and, really, really good band there. And I think they're realizing that people want to see them, and a lot of people want to see them. I'd be stoked to see them on either, but I really wanted to go see a headlining show because My Chemical Romance, and I think that's awesome because that's going to open them up. Not only are they going to play huge fucking arenas, they're probably going to be playing some of the biggest shows they've ever played, but like that's going to be introducing them to new people 100%. And if you like My Chemical Romance, you'll probably like Midtown. So, I really think a lot of like a new younger generation, as well as maybe people who just missed Midtown the first time around, are going to fall in love with them. So, I love the idea of them getting even more fans from this here Resurrection Tour 2022. So I'm very excited for that. I don't know if we'll ever get music from them. I don't ever know if Midtown will be I don't think it'll ever be a full-time thing, but like, maybe we'll finally get them to a point where Midtown's a band who gets back together to play show. You know what I mean? Like where they don't play all the time, but there's a good chance you'll see them like at least once a year, something like that. I know like Gabe Saporta, I think he does more behind the scenes, like management and stuff now, like music management and stuff. So I don't think he's personally, I could be totally wrong, but like, I don't think he's doing music as much. So, with that in mind, without him having another like main focus in music, maybe they play more, who knows? I mean, it's all speculation, but again, they've announced more dates since getting back together with the initial 2 dates and everything else. So I'm stoked to see it. That is very, very good news. And another piece of music news, I brought up earlier in the show that John Doe has a brand new single out, and John Doe of the punk rock legends that are X, they have announced or not X, but John Doe of X has announced a brand new solo record called Fables in a Foreign Land, and it's going to be released on May 20th on Fat Possum Records, and they released the last X record, Alphabet Land, one of the best X records. And John released the first single called Never Coming Back, along with a music video for that one. And the album's going to feature contributions from Exene Cervenka, Shirley Manson of Garbage, Louis Perez of Los Lobos. And this is going to be John's first solo album since 2016's The Westerner. I mean, he has tons of solo records, but I didn't realize it had been 6 years since the last solo one. So that's cool. I really like the new song. I mean, the record is very like kind of country twangy Americana. Like, it's not, it sound, John Doe's voice is there and everything, but it doesn't sound like X per se. But it's one of those, like the new song is great. And like, he's one of those examples of people where I've talked about it on the show before, and I can't remember. I almost want to say me and Joey. Well, no, I don't think we did talk about it on the No Effects episode, but I have talked about it with Joey before. And there's certain musicians who it doesn't matter what kind of music they play, they would have accelerated at it. Like, they're just good musicians, they're not just good at writing punk songs or country songs or pop songs. They're just good at writing songs. Like, just period. It doesn't matter. You can throw them in any genre. You can, like, they'll learn it, they'll figure it out, they'll be the best at it. And John Doe's one of those people where it's like, John Doe will get me to listen to things that because like I love a lot of his solo stuff, but like it's probably like some of it's admittingly stuff where I probably wouldn't check it out, or be as likely to check it out if it wasn't John Doe. And then I fall in love with it. And not just because it's John Doe, it's because it's really, really well written. He's just one of those people where his music, if it's a fast, aggressive punk song, it can be amazing, but it can also be amazing stripped down with nothing but, an acoustic guitar, some drums. And like, I mean, I think his bass player is playing, I think on the whole record is playing an upright bass. I don't think there's any electric bass. I mean, again, it's not out yet. I could be wrong, but I mean, the whole band and the whole setup and everything is just different from, traditional John Doe when you think of X and all that. But, he transcends it. It doesn't matter the genre. He's just good. He's good at writing music. And just so goddamn cool. Like, like I've gotten like my descent into being a big X fan, I think is pretty documented on this show, because like I always knew they weren't stuff, but like I really didn't get that into them until 2020 when I watched The Decline of Western Civilization and kind of went back and listened to them more. Like, I was aware of them. I knew their importance. I knew some songs. But probably like 5 or 6 songs, really. Like, I mean, nothing crazy. And I ended up falling in love with them. But like John Doe, just even now, I mean, is, I don't know how old he is, but he's like in his 60s. He's just still really fucking cool. Like, you just kind of like, there's just something about him, like the swagger. Like, I don't even know what you want to call it, but like, he's just never not cool. Same with like just old, you just look at old pictures of him, where you look at the aesthetic of the band and him, or, just his music and everything. Like, he's just cool. And even now, he's like a cool older guy. Like, he's still just really fucking cool. I don't know what you want to call it. It's just that thing. You know what I mean? It's that thing about him where it's like, he's interesting in interviews. Like, I always like to hear him talk. He always has good points and views and stuff. Like, everything about John Doe, I'm all about. So I'm excited for that new solo record. And I would be stoked if we also heard an announcement for a new X record, because that last one was so damn good. And if that was their last album, they ended on a high note. But I'd be very excited if they came out with another one. And before I let you go here, we'll be done with the March rundown. But we'll end on a nice note, on a really great note. But way back a while ago, we did talk about Mark Hoppus, and I mean, Us and a million others when he, announced he was diagnosed with cancer. But some really good news. Hoppus recently revealed on social media that he did his 6-month post-cancer scan, and it came back clean, and he is still cancer-free. And he also turned 50 this month, so another milestone in his life. And he revealed last summer that he had been diagnosed with cancer. And for a while there, he was very, obviously everyone was concerned. And great to see now that after that 6-month post scan, seeing that everything's coming back clean. And also just in time for August, because this August will mark the 30th anniversary of Blink-182's formation. So yeah, I mean, what a, I followed it for a very long time. I feel like everyone had, with after Mark announcing that cancer diagnosis, but like so great to see that he's doing well now, and things are looking up, and that he's still cancer free and everything. And from what it looks like, I think working on music, I don't know in what capacity, but I think I also saw, on top of him revealing that on social media, talking about some studio gear and different stuff. So good to see, he has decades left in him of music and everything to give us. So that sounds selfish to give us, but you know what I mean. He has more good output, I think, to give us. And it's just crazy to think that he's now 50. It's crazy to think he's 50 and that Blink is about to turn 30. Me and Blink both born in 1992, but they got me beat by a couple months. I was born in November of 1992, and Blink was born in August of 1992. And an honor to be like, the same age as Blink-182, but also fucking crazy. It's just so crazy when you think of him as being 50 and Blink being, about to turn 30, just because it's that youth, that eternal youthfulness of the band. You know what I mean? Like you always think of them as like, Mark, Tom, and Travis as like 20 somethings, and like they always just will have, I think no matter what, like at this point, I mean, 30 years in, I think for all those guys, and it's also been, documented, and we've talked about on the show, but, sometimes the bane of Tom DeLonge's existence, it seems like, but, that again, eternal youthfulness, that like you're always 20 something and all that. But like, yeah, I feel like all those guys, and like same with Mark, where it's like, Mark might be 50, but Mark could be 75. And you'd still think of him as like a 27-year-old, like I don't think I'm alone in that. I think everyone kind of thinks of them in that way, which, I mean, that means the music's successful, because I think that's a lot of what they were trying to go for in Blink. And, I think pretty successful when you feel that way, when you're like, oh yeah, like you don't feel like, Mark is 50 and Blink is now 3 decades old. That is insane to think. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a fan of the last few things they put out, but I will always love Blink-182, and I'll always have to check something out when they release it. And maybe for the 30th anniversary, we'll get a Mark, Tom, and Scott fucking album. Maybe we'll get that. Though the three of them will get back together to re-record Flyswatter and give us this Flyswatter 2K22 fucking the re-recording. It'll be beautiful. They'll go on tour to play Flyswatter front to back, and that's it. They're not gonna play. That would be hilarious. They go do a tour where they only play Flyswatter front to back, and that's it. There's nothing else. That's all you get. You get fucking Flyswatter, and then good night, and that is it. I would pay to see that, and I feel like I was gonna say everyone would, but honestly, you know what though? Maybe not everyone, but let's be honest. I think they could fill. Here's a question for you, and here's what we'll go out on. Email me, powerchordhour@gmail.com. If Blink did a all Flyswatter tour, again, only Flyswatter front to back, there is no encore, there's no greatest hit set, they're playing fucking Flyswatter. Do you feel like, because at the very least, yes, I feel like that could fill a theater, but do you think they could still at least fill an arena? Or is that so like niche that it's not, people aren't going to do that? Like they might be able to get 1,000, 2,000 people in like a theater, but are they going to get 8,000 or 9,000 people every night to see that? I mean, I don't know. I'm very on the fence with that. The theater, at least. The theater guarantee at least a couple thousand, but I don't know where that I don't know what that window is or how large that audience would be. Again, I'd be there, but yeah, I don't know. Also, while you emailed me, let me know if you'll be at this fictitious tour. But hey, we got a dream. 30th anniversary. We got time too. I mean, it's about to be April. We got some time for that Mark, Tom, and Scott to the reunion that we're all waiting for to happen. But that is going to be it. On that note, I'm Anthony Merchant. This has been the Power Chord Hour podcast. Go follow us at Power Chord Hour on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Like I was talking about earlier, on Spotify, we put up tons and tons of playlists, including that big old playlist full of songs from past Power Chord Hour guests. You can go check that out. And maybe you're listening to the podcast on there. If not, you can hear the podcast on Spotify. You hear it on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, on our YouTube page you should go subscribe to because it's fucking sad. And we got like 40 subscribers. And you should go subscribe to that. So we have 43. And, like power in numbers, baby. But yeah, I mean, listen to the podcast, I think, just about everywhere. I can't really think of a place where the podcast isn't. Anywhere you really listen to podcasts, the Power Chord Hour should be. But wherever you listen, subscribe if you would, rate and review if you would. That would really, really help. Tell your friends about us. And yeah, I think that is everything. I don't know who I'm back with next week. To be honest, I was so caught up with guests, and right now I don't have anything recorded. Like, I don't have any like guests already in the can, so your guess is as good as mine. Maybe I won't be back next week, but probably will. So either way, check it out. I'll at least be back in like 2 weeks with John Doe, which I'm very excited for that. Go read his book. Go get ready for that interview and read his book and send me questions if you got any. But anyway, that is March 2022 rundown of the Power Chord Hour podcast. And for the Power Chord Hour podcast, I'm Anthony Merchant. Thank you so much for listening.